There we go. Uh, shoot. All right. So
All right.
let's. Yeah, that's a good way to start it off. All right.
Yeah.
So
A burp.
shoot
All
a
right.
burp. Yeah, fantastic. All right. We'll see if Frank jumps on. Frank's having some car issues, so we'll see in his mobile studio. Um, let's see. So I'm sure you saw that news. Bumstead is doing an open show, right?
Yeah. In Prague.
Oh, well,
Prague is
beautiful
pretty
there.
far away. Pretty far away to, Well, I think what his reasoning was, if I remember the interview correctly, is that he had started his career with the intention of being an open bodybuilder, and that he thought, "What a great way to end my career as
Yeah.
an open bodybuilder." The thing with him is that I think, and this is purely my opinion, I
Mhm.
think he has established himself, actually more than established himself, he has cemented himself as the ideal for, classic physique. I mean,
Right.
ostensibly, you could make a statue of him and give it out as the trophy from now and forever. I mean, the guy is that good. Will that translate to open bodybuilding? I don't know. I mean, his whole point with when I interviewed him was that he was, didn't have to gain all this weight. He could manage a physique that was not gigantic,
Right.
because he's a tall dude. He's got to fill out of real estate to fill up. That he could not have to go that extreme and still, do well. Now he's putting himself in a situation where he's got to go to that extreme because he's going to have to somehow make a point of difference
Right.
between an open bodybuilder and a classic physique bodybuilder. So he can't expect, I don't think, to march into an open competition with a classic physique and win the open. So is it a test run? Is it just to do it? Is he serious about winning? I don't know all about that. But I do know that he's not going to be able to take his classic physique body to an open show, especially like the Arnold or something, and prevail as an open bodybuilder with a classic physique body. So I don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to gain, 40 pounds or what? I mean, what's he going to do?
Well, then you'll also have to get a thicker mustache to make it fit in with the rest of the bigger body, right? You gotta, that's another thing. It's like, man, then it's more mustache maintenance, and you got to get the
Yeah.
wax, and you got to get the combs. Whew, that's a lot.
You know,
No, it. I saw that, and I thought it was look. I thought it was interesting, but my thing is this: the dude, as you said, maybe he's just doing it because he wants to do it. At this point, he's got nothing to lose. He could just have fun. He's at
yeah.
that
I
point,
mean,
and
I
good for
mean,
him.
I would, if I were him, I would do whatever I wanted to do. You made your mark. You did what you had to do. No one can contest what you represent. So you're there, man. You are locked into history, and no one's taking you out. So do whatever you want. I mean, I think I like the crossovers. I mean, I like that a lot about Derek Lunsford. I mean, he won
Right.
the 212 and then he won the Open Olympia. I mean, I keep saying, dude, downsize and go into classic physique and pull the hat trick. But yeah, I don't know what the motivation is on any of these crossover ideas, but um, I don't know. I think when you actually create an ideal and you are the standard, I think it's hard for the public to take that to another venue and look at you objectively in another class. So we'll,
Right.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man, I don't know. It was kind of out of nowhere. Well, I guess not. Maybe it wasn't out of nowhere to people in his orbit, but I took a break from any bodybuilding news after the Olympia, and I'll probably take a nice long break until the next one. So it was, there's a lot to take in during that week or the lead up to it. So, but yeah, that was, I'm sure a lot of outlets were happy because it gives them something to report on that's popular
Mhm.
and people click on it. But it's also good for that guy if he's got stuff to sell, gets his name out there. It's a really good marketing tool.
Yeah, I mean, the more eyeballs are more eyeballs. That's more is more. So if you can get
Mhm.
more people interested in you, he's already got what 24 million followers. So
Yeah,
uh, a few more, why not? You
yeah.
know.
Think about that. All
So
he needs is like a very small slice to purchase something, and he's in a good
he,
spot.
he's in good. So I had a thought about the whole Olympia thing, and I was talking to somebody yesterday about it. He said,
Okay.
how was the Olympia? And my initial reaction was, other than I had a great time, was that it's so big now. I mean, it is. You got to go back to the day one. It was one division, three guys, 100 people in the audience.
Hmm.
Now it's you know this huge monster, 11 divisions, several days, events, expos, all kinds of shit going on. And I think we're at the point where we're the point where the lines have converged, and we have to do one of two things. We either have to
Okay.
stay the course and make it even bigger, or pare it down and make it more streamlined. I don't think the paring down, streamlining thing is going to be palatable for a lot of people, but the alternative is there's too much crammed into 3 days.
Yeah.
So I think we need to make this like a World's Fair, like a festival, like a week long, start on the weekend and go to the next weekend and have the whole thing in between. Don't worry about whether people have to work and can't be there and whatnot. Don't worry about that. The ones that can come will come, the ones that can't won't. But if you go back to Joe Weider's original intention of holding these events was not to satisfy the crowd, the audience. It was to satisfy his need for content for his magazines.
Right.
So it didn't matter that there were three guys in the first Olympia and 100 people in the audience. It didn't matter. What matters is the photographers had a lot to work with, and
Hmm.
that content lasted 6 months or more. So I would like to see the world get involved in the Olympia and create a World's Fair type atmosphere where you have workshops, seminars, events, expo, trying stuff out, gym workouts, personal training encounters. I mean, all kinds of stuff you could develop into a worldwide attraction that you would have in a giant venue somewhere over the course of a week, and it would be like a really huge, fitness, bodybuilding, health festival.
Hmm.
Because we're there now, really. I mean, we got multiple events going on at the same time. If you cannot physically go to the Olympia and see everything that's going on. You can't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, you cannot. That's true. Scabman, what is that bodybuilding magazine that's in print? I'm just curious. But yeah. No, I do. I don't think that that would work though, and I'll tell you why. It's expensive
Yeah,
to put
it
this
is.
on.
Wow.
It's also expensive for people to go because
Mhm.
when it's held, especially at a place like Las Vegas or even Orlando, I mean, you're asking them to go there. If they have families, they have to bring their kids, and they have to pay for an expo, and maybe they want to go see a bodybuilding show, maybe they don't. Um,
Right.
I think that I think that that's. I don't see that happen. I don't know what the fix is though. I think the fix is also getting everything on one level. I thought it was on two levels this year, and that was tough because if I worked there and I didn't know, and I go, that's bad. And and I did my best. I tried to include everybody, and I'm going through some of the footage now. But yeah, it's I don't know what I also think that, like you said, I think bodybuilding is never going to be mainstream.
No.
It's just not. It's just not what people, especially now, want to look like. It's okay that a specific niche one. Just like I don't want to be a marathoner. Like
Right.
that's not something I'm going to go to. So trying to shoehorn that stuff is one thing. It's media, especially now, is about catering to your niche, right? That's the
Mhm.
best you can do.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I think there's ways that you could probably satisfy the audience that wants that better, and it's by focusing on them. But yeah, if you wanted to make it something more, I think the expo being having more things to do is great because
Yeah.
walking around, and maybe this is just me, maybe I'm like an old guy, but walking around and collecting free stuff is boring to me now. I
Yeah.
want to do things. I want to be involved in things. I want to engage with people and new products and stuff like that. So it the second floor, that's why I really enjoyed it, because I was able to go do things, but I didn't
Hmm.
know about it. And then by the time I did know about it,
It
it
was
was a
over.
little late, and all the ideas I had would have taken like time. But Frank and I were brainstorming stuff on the fly, but we didn't have the time. I mean, he had some great ideas. He's like, look, we could have had Dexter Jackson and you know somebody else from one of the legend bodybuilder winners come play pickleball with us. It's like that
Hmm.
would have just been a
Sure.
total win.
Well, the
Yeah.
immersion, you want an immersive experience, right?
Yeah.
It's not about collecting free samples. It's about an immersion into an activity, into our world, into our culture, whatever that brings everybody kind of closer together and it creates an awareness about what we do and what we stand for. So that's beneficial to I mean, even just the health aspect of it, even though bodybuilding is technically not that healthy, the
Right.
majority of the people who participate in it are pretty healthy. Okay, it's the extremists that push the envelope and get themselves into trouble, and that's a tiny fraction of the overall population. So if you looked at the expo with any objectivity, where were most of the people involved? Most of the people were involved with either meeting one of the superstars of the sport, so they'd wait in these giant lines for that, or they would wait in line to do stuff like pull-ups, push-ups, lifting a weight, trying out a machine. They had all those machines out. I forgot what line it was, but everybody was on them and working them, and those were people who were immersed in what they were in what we had going on. And I think that those kinds of things really attract people. Like there's a cool new piece of equipment out. Let's try it. Where else are you
Right.
going to get to try it? Right? At the
Yeah.
World's
No,
Fair of Bodybuilding. That's
I think it
that's
was
about
new.
it.
I think it was New Tech. I think it was maybe the
Yeah,
name. And yeah,
yeah.
it's look. I did go check that stuff out. I thought it was really nice. The thing is, for me, it's not a home gym solution,
No,
so it looks
no.
like it's more for commercial and it's expensive, and
Yeah,
it's so I think that that's a good thing if you're a gym owner or somebody that wants to go pick something up, because there's a lot of really good brands that are out there now that are really high end, and it's pretty competitive. I mean,
yeah.
Bev's just picked up a whole bunch of new stuff. I'm gonna screw the name up. I know Frank would know it because he uses it, but it's yeah. So, but yeah, I'm not gonna go buy that. But there was other things there that I was interested in, but it's also a timing thing. It's also, as you said, the bigger it gets, the more tiring it is to walk around every day. It's just like,
Well,
oh yeah, yeah.
there's so much stimulation, there's so much going on, so many people, and the not only is there so many people, but there's so many like interesting to for a lack of a better word people to
Yeah,
look at. So I mean we attract some interesting people in our audiences, and they're all fun to look at, and everything that they're doing. But I don't know, man. I think that we're onto something in terms of while we are a niche, we are a powerful niche. It's like bikers. Okay,
Mhm.
you're not going to get a soccer mom to jump on a Harley and ride all the way to Sturgis. Okay, but an awful lot of people do, and they're part of that niche, that community, and
Absolutely.
they meet and do their thing, and it's a week long of so I think we should be doing the same thing, you know.
Yeah, I do. I think maybe I just don't know if it's an Olympia event. I don't know. I'm not in those conversations, and I'm certainly not going to bring them up and take on any more work for it. But I get what you're saying, and it is true. It's like it's definitely like it's a very active fan base when there's a reason to get together. People go to Ohio in March, so they go,
Yeah,
they go there. And I've been there a few times, and it's been enjoyable and it's been fine, except the weather, which is
yep,
usually not so enjoyable. But it's yeah, if there's a reason to go do something cool, then people will probably do it. But as
yeah.
far as the financials behind it, I don't know how that would work.
I don't either. It's a big thing. Let's get
Yeah.
to some questions because I'm going to neg myself out.
All right. Well, Scatman has brought up the that Jeff Nippard thing. You talked about it on RX Muscle too.
Yeah.
I guess there's a follow up. I guess the dude got arrested, the big guy.
Good. I mean,
Yeah,
you attack somebody, you should get arrested. I mean, look, it's a fine line because Nippert is actually not a bad dude. I mean, he's at least not to his core anyway. I think these online jousts get a little bit out of hand because you know, like Tyson says, the internet affords you with the opportunity to talk smack to somebody that would ordinarily get you punched in the face.
yeah,
So that attitude kind of pervades these arguments because initially everybody starts off really hot and heavy, like they're going to kill each other. But then when reality sets in and they actually have to meet in a room, tails go between legs. So it's just one of those things that should just never have happened,
yeah.
and unfortunately, it did. And because it did, somebody's got to pay the piper. So you know, that's what happens.
Yeah, look, and the other thing for me is that when people have negative things to say about me online, I just it's fine. It's fine. Who has the time? And it's okay. Like look. I also think that there's people that just are very unhappy people, man, and that's what you got to deal with. And you know, we talked about that the other day about Olympia, and they're like, oh well, some people had some very negative things to say, and of course that's the internet though. Like you're never
Yeah.
gonna appease everybody, so you can do the best you can. And look, that's just how it goes there, man. I mean, it's like you open it up to people, and they're gonna, But it's engagement,
Well, there's two things about human nature that you got to understand. One is that humans mock what they don't understand. Number
Mhm.
one, and number two is that there is always more than one way to skin a cat, as my grandfather would say.
Right.
So you have to just be able to bob and weave a little bit. But if you are of the mindset that everything is super intense, and then you get because you're online, and then when you get in real life, a lot of people just don't even have the skills anymore to cope in real life. I mean, I see it all the time. You see the two people, a couple sitting in a restaurant, supposedly having dinner, and they're both on their phones. They should be talking to each other, right? But they're so conditioned to the device that they can't even sit in person and have a conversation. So you got to temper that with what people are going to say. It's also human nature to complain versus praise. People are much more apt to write a nasty review than they are to write a good review. If they have a good experience with something, a product, a service, whatever, they just let it go. If they have a bad experience with it, oh man, the letters come out, they're writing everybody, they're posting, they're doing everything. It's just the way humans are wired. They're just wired to complain. They're not wired to rejoice. So you got to factor that in when people talk about the Olympia or talk about an event, a contest, or whatever. Is that you know if they don't understand the mechanics of it, they're going to mock it, and if they don't appreciate what's been done, they're going to complain. So you're set on. You're kind of behind the eight ball starting out.
Yeah. Let's switch gears real quick. That somebody just asked, I think it was first one shot, started TRT 2 weeks ago, doesn't, hasn't felt any different. And I mean, I didn't feel a difference within the first 2 weeks, but I was also not expecting to. It's also not this thing where like you do it and you sit there and you stare in the mirror and you wait for some change. It's not like you're going to turn into the Hulk here. It's an ongoing thing. Plus, there was other things that I was doing at the same time that I think helped in that I was very basic stuff, drinking more water, and I was trying to get more vitamin D, like doing things that I thought would help just my overall mood and well-being,
Right.
but
Right.
understanding that from a scientific standpoint, there's no way that I wasn't going to feel something eventually as I'm continuing to add that consistently. And I am still doing that, and I'm still happy that it's working. not to say that I don't have my problems. Look, I go to therapy every week. I got to go today. I tried to get out of it. I tried my best once again to weasel my way out, and they were like, "You can't. We're going to charge you." So I was like, "Oh." So now I got to show up.
Yeah. There was a testosterone replacement group I was involved with on Facebook that I X'd myself out of last week solely because I was just so frustrated by the insane amount of stupidity proffered by the members of this group. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, one dude holding up a syringe, an insulin syringe, wondering why he can't figure out how to like load it for the right amount of milligrams per cc that he was supposedly allegedly led to believe he should take. I mean, dumb shit. One comment dumber than the other. And I'm thinking to myself, do any of these people research this shit before they go sticking needles in them? I mean, absolute abject stupidity. You couldn't make shit up like this. The dumbest shit I have ever heard of in my life. And not just one or two, hundreds. And I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with you? How could you not research a topic for which you are going to push chemicals into your body through a syringe? You wouldn't at least even know how the syringe works first? I mean, dumber and dumb. I mean, I got so bad, I just said, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to read one more of these things and waste another second of my life. You guys deserve everything that you get because you're stupid.
Wow. Okay. So you're no longer part of that. I'm taking it, which is
No, I mean, and
no, I get
thankfully
it.
so. I would read some of these posts and go, "What the fuck? Are you kidding me?" I mean, basic shit that you would think that
Right.
before you started geezing oil into your system, you would find this shit out. Oh no.
I do get it with I do understand where there is some confusion about how long it might take to work because you're
Mhm.
probably antsy to feel better, to feel
Yeah.
different, right? Like you're probably so I get that part, but yeah, not listen. The other thing was I asked people, and I also looked it up, but I asked what is like an average because I understand that it's not going to be like listen, give it 48 hours and 9 minutes, and you're going to start to feel something.
Well, they go in with grossly out of sight expectations to begin with because they listen to all the bro scientists online and they go, "Bro, you're going to get huge 15 cc's of Trent every 5 hours," and people say shit that stupid, and these other morons believe it. So they're going in and they're saying, "Well, I'm doing, X amount of this, and I've been doing it for, 5.5 days, and my toenails turn blue." And I'm like, where do you get this shit from? Like, where do you get it? I mean, the dumbest shit. And I understand that some of it is the false expectation they have because of the bro scientists they listen to. But overall, hormones, specifically sex hormones, have been in use for almost 100 years. There's a lot of information out there about them. For you to walk into this realm completely uninformed and then start taking this shit and then come up with this array of stupid fucking questions about it is really just showing how really dumb you are. And if I were you, I would stop it because nobody needs to be made out to be dumber than they already are. But I'm just absolutely shocked that the level of abject stupidity that can run rampant around in a group with hundreds, if not thousands, of members is insane to me. Just absolutely insane.
Yeah, well, I think it's because what people do is they're experts. If they go on they go on Reddit or they go on,
Yeah,
they see
yeah.
comments and they read some, and then they say, okay, you know what, that's it, and it's not it. The thing is, we've talked about it a lot, where it's
Not by a long shot.
no, but where things that work for person A that may not work for you because there's a major difference. So you have to understand how things are going to operate yourself. You also have to be patient at times, and also understand if maybe hey, you know what? Maybe I don't actually need this. Maybe it's not necessarily, you know, worth my while here. Like you said, maybe you don't need it. Quick question for you,
Yeah,
John, from Scatman. Where is your favorite injection spot?
shoulders.
I thought, yeah, I thought you were going to say that. I thought you rotate, or do you
Oh, I
rotate?
do. I do. Oh, well, depends on how much I'm doing. If I'm just doing one shot a week, then I just do shoulder, shoulder, shoulder. If I'm doing, more often than that, then I'll do shoulder, glute, glute, shoulder. So
Mm.
it just depends on what I'm doing. But no, I like shoulders because if there's any irritant whatsoever, in what I'm taking, I would rather the body part swell up, which would be, I would rather, if a body part is going to swell up, I would rather it be one that would like to have swelled up. So I don't need a swollen glute cheek, but a
Yeah.
swollen shoulder I'll take. You know?
All right. Let's see here. So, was it first one shot or was it Get Massive? Somebody asked about. Okay, no, Get Massive 999 asked like why seems like there's so many people dealing with mental health issues nowadays. It's sad. Is it something in the water or food? Look, there's we've been talking about it a little bit in the chat. Where look, there's a million reasons, right? Whether it's just being inactive, whether it's too much screen time, whether you're not getting outside, whether you're not doing for me, just walking around outside is a big help. But yeah, I'm open about. I go to a therapist. Except today when I tried to get out of it. But also I go there for me. It's like just as I use the gym as an excuse to focus on myself. That's what I do. Like I can even tell you what I'm going to do today. I'll tell you what I'm going to. I've already figured it out. I need to talk about how I can better manage my time and do better at following through with projects in a timely manner. And I have some ideas as to why these things are slipping. It turns out that it's also because, in this job, I do get a lot of content that piles up and I don't have a ton of help. And it frustrates me. And John knows this because I vent to him a lot about it. And because we're trying to build something here, we're really trying and we want to make it more accessible to people where we're answering these types of questions or we're talking about whatever it is that you guys really want to talk about. And to get it out there and let people know that we're here, it's tough because the Muscle and Fitness YouTube is not very well maintained or monitored. It's got a lot of old stuff on there. The Dennis James podcast is been consistent, and that's really what buoys it. But we're also trying to reach other folks, like whether it's talking about injections or we're talking about Chris Bumstead doing the open, or we're talking about Jeff and Mike throwing each other around a gym or one or the other. So yeah, like that's what we're trying to do. And, I struggle with that and I take it very personally that I don't feel like I've done enough or my efforts haven't gone far enough to propel this where I think it could go. So that's where I get angry at myself. And that's the type of stuff that I talk about. I don't sit there and complain about the world being unfair or my feelings got hurt by somebody calling me a name online. That's fine.
Yeah, the victimhood mentality doesn't go very far.
That just comes with it. Look, just doing this, I knew that, you get on here and people sometimes get pissed off. And sometimes when they do, we talk to them and they turn out to be okay people.
I don't like when everybody agrees with me. I like having debate. But the mental health issue that, was it Scatman brought up?
No, it was Get Massive brought it up.
Get
How dare
Massive.
you, John?
I'm sorry, but there's a couple things, several things going on in society that unfortunately breeds exacerbated mental illness. My dad was a psychiatrist, so I have a little bit of insight into this. One of the huge problems we had is that back in the 60s or the 70s in New York, and other states followed suit, were called the Rockefeller laws. When Rockefeller was the governor of New York, he closed all the state hospitals, the mental institutions. They closed them. So from one day to the next, you had people that were basically inmates in insane asylums that were now out on the street homeless instantly. So what do you think's going to happen? Are you they're going to start mowing lawns and sweeping people's sidewalks, or are they going to start eating cats? I mean, you got to like be realistic with these actions. What from they have consequences, and obviously, letting all the inmates out of the asylum was probably not a good idea, but they did it anyway. The other
Yeah.
thing is, let me just post three things, and then we can take each one.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, the second one is, let's say you've got a person who's hypochondriacal, and they're constantly at the doctor, and they go, I'm this, I'm that, I feel this hurts, that. And eventually the doctor, after running a barrage of tests and evaluations, realizes there's absolutely nothing organically wrong with you, but they're still complaining. So what do? They make up a disease. Fibromyalgia is a good one. There is no organic damage to any tissue that you can label as fibromyalgia. It doesn't exist. What exists is pain in someone's head relative to a body part. And so the doctors, getting frustrated over such a situation, and there's tons of them. I'm just using fibromyalgia as one example.
Sure.
The doctors make up a disease to label you with, so you stop coming to them for no reason. So you can be treated, with certain, sort of placebo type drugs, or minorly effective, painkillers or whatever. But ultimately, organically, there's nothing wrong. It's in your head. Okay, so that's a psychological issue. The last one is our environment. The food and the water supply in this country is fucked. We allow chemicals in our food supply that no other country on earth allows.
Right.
Nowhere on earth except here, you get these poisons allowed in the food supply. It's absolutely astonishing. And, I notice it when I travel. I was in Portugal a month or so ago, and normally here I get heartburn almost every night, every afternoon. I start getting, acid reflux. I get, gas. I have burps, indigestion, all of this stuff going on. I went to Portugal. I ate exactly whatever I wanted to eat, like I do here, and nothing. No problem. No indigestion, no heartburn, no gas, nothing. Why is that? Because there's shit in our food supply. There's shit in the water supply. And everybody's, 330 million people in America are taking it in like, there's no tomorrow. So those three things right there contribute significantly to the mental health issues that we have in this country and the problems that they cause society. And we got to get a handle on it. Otherwise, we talk about non-sustainable trajectories all the time, and that is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I do think that, just we'll cherry pick a little bit because I think that there's a lot in there. But yeah. And by the way, what you said about, the emotional side of pain is absolutely there. I think it was Dr. John Sarno wrote a book way back in the day about this, where, you bottle up these things, or you don't figure out a way to manage stress or stress management, or emotions, and it can it'll physically hurt you. So it does help to find ways to alleviate that. For me, I don't necessarily go and talk. I have no problems talking about things and being open, but for me, my stress relief is exercise. That's what I do. I try to do breathing. I try to meditate, and man, I got a gnarly case of ADHD. Whether anybody out there wants to believe that is real, I got to tell you, it's a challenge, and it doesn't work as well as I want it to. So, but yeah, I think that there's definitely times where I feel. It's why some people are complaining about their back pain or their lower back or their chest, and Samson one. This is true. A lot of food from U.S. is banned in Europe.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, so we are. Yeah, we're surrounded by a lot of things that can work against us, and that's And look, I fall into the trap too. You think I'm on my phone far more than I want to be, and sometimes far more than I need to be. And that is something where I've allowed myself to get sucked in and be manipulated by advertising and marketing. And I'm like, oh, and I feel, when I catch myself doing it, I feel like an idiot because I see it. But also same thing with the food, man. There's times where I feel just I'm probably taking in too much sodium, and I feel like we all are
Hmm.
around in the United States,
Yeah.
among other things. But where I just feel like my skin is tight, I feel like I'm just unhappy. I don't feel, as I don't feel like I want to feel. So on top of all that, then I get the stuff about work with what we're trying to build, and it sometimes is so much. And look, John's been on the receiving end where where I'll just go on these cursing fits, and it does help, but I guess that's another way I've learned to let it out. But man, it's true, and it's one thing to identify them, which I think a lot of people have. Like Samson knows that a lot of the food is bad, and Scatman's talking about how there's people do sunshine therapy. There's a reason people worship the sun. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yet we still don't do it. Most of us have vitamin D deficiencies, myself included. I started going outside more, but then I'm like, well, you know what? I'm also putting on sunscreen because I have fair skin. So I'm going to get burned. So I'm probably blocking the sun. So it's like everything is like you try to do stuff right. And I'm like, oh man, I'm still doing it wrong.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of that has to do with environmental challenges. If you end up stuck in a job where you're inside, 9, 10, 12 hours a day under fluorescent lights, you leave there, you go in your car, you drive home, you go inside, you stay inside, you sleep there, you wake up, you go back in your car, you go back to the fluorescent lights. So you're undercover all the time. You're never outside. I know a lot of people like that. They just are never outside. And then you get to this time of year, which really affects me a lot, is
Me
when the
too.
days get shorter, the
Oh,
less light there is. Oh man, I feel right now, I'm looking out the
tell me about it.
window. It's gloomy, it's cloudy, the leaves are falling off the trees, and I know it's going to get dark in about 20 minutes. And then they go and change the clocks, which makes
Oh,
it even worse. So now it's dark at 4:30. The day is shot. No matter what you do, you can't get enough done outside because it's just the day's too short. The weather sucks. It's cold. All of these things that they affect me mentally. They affect my mood. They affect my outlook. They affect my metabolism. They affect my, desire to go out and do stuff. It totally, totally affects me. And I've read a lot about it, and it's a common thing that this time of year, the fall and the winter, creates a lot of depression. And then you
yeah.
have the holidays, and that even makes things worse. But I'm just talking environmental, the weather in your environment. You know, Even when I lived in Florida, the days got shorter. It was hard to deal with. But at least it was warm and the weather was good. You get shitty weather, cold, no light, and it's a recipe for gloom. I mean, it's just what it does. And people spend the winter. They tend to eat more. They tend to do less exercise. They tend to stay inside more. They tend to do things that are less active and more laying around kind of shit. And guess what happens? The
Yeah.
body adapts. Then the
Yep.
spring rolls around, and now you got to lose 10 pounds to get into your bathing suit.
But then you
So,
also got to fight to get yourself out to want to do it, right? That's the other thing. And what a
yeah.
lot of people do and what a lot of doctors want to do is push pills on you. And
Yep.
they did that to me once when I was living in LA. And, I think I took it for like 2 weeks and I'm like, I don't want this. What am I doing? Like I was, and it just was this epiphany I had. I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling so shitty. I'm going to try something different. And I think I ended up getting a bicycle and biking more. And that was fine. That was good
Yeah.
enough for me. That's what I needed. I wanted to be out and do things more. And also, I was at a time. The job I was at was kind of, slowly going down in flames. And I'm like, I'm still riding it out with no plan. So I think it was a lot of. It was true. It was like I could tell that they wanted to sell the company and not necessarily the brand I was working to build. And I was like, oh boy. So yeah, it was all those things. And the weird thing was I did recognize it, right? And
Mhm.
then I'm like, okay, I'll just take these. And then I realized how stupid it was for me to do that it was just a scheme to get me to pay more money, to get me to buy into this. It wasn't going to actually help anything.
Right.
It wasn't going to
Right.
cure anything. It was just going to numb the system. And that's what I used to do when I was younger a lot with weed. I would smoke a ton of weed. And it was because I didn't know how to process emotions, and it was a very easy way to feel numb. And I mean, listen, I still cannabis. I'm still totally cool with it. I use it to sleep when it's available to me, when I have access to it. But at least I use it now in a different sense. Whereas I realize now that I was just trying any which way I could to numb myself, to not actually deal with or process emotions properly.
That's interesting. You know, it's what happens is if if your goal is health, mobility, and longevity, okay, which it should be for everyone. You should want to be as healthy as possible, as mobile as possible, and live as long as possible. That should be in everybody's repertoire of seriously important things that you want to accomplish. What happens is we live life and are constantly bombarded with obstacles that prevent us or make doing that more challenging.
Yeah.
So you're faced a lot of times with, what do I do here? Do I let the environment get to me, or do I somehow find the strength, find the not just the strength, but like you said, I bought a bike. Okay, you find a remedy, a solution, some way of furthering your goal
Yeah.
that's going to counter the obstacle, right? The problem that a lot of people deal with is they're just not tough. Life was too easy. Life was very life. You got to go back 100 years ago and compare ease of existence now to then. And it's just 100 years, a couple generations is all we're talking about here. And the difference is astounding. You know, 100 years ago, you had to worry about, where's my next meal coming from? How am I going to heat the house? Is there going to be enough firewood? Can I get coal to, fire the stove? What about ice for the ice box and keeping the food fresh? And you have all of these things that we take totally for granted: hot and cold running water, electricity, refrigeration, air conditioning, heating. We take all of that shit for granted. 100 years ago, you had none of that. So, life was tough, and tough lives made tough people. So when you have a tough person versus a weak person, and fast forward to today, you have a minor skirmish or something going on, a challenge, something that's not going your way. People fall apart. They become victims. They fall apart. They have no strength. They have no will. They have no perseverance. They can't do anything because they're just not tough. So life, the easy life has created soft people. Soft people don't do well in tough environments. And if you can stay in the soft, cushy environment, great. You're going to be fine. But if you ever have to venture outside of that and do something like mow the lawn or rake the leaves or fix the leak in the gutter or take the garbage out, anything that's a physical, difficult, strenuous, sometimes not particularly, beautiful thing that you have to do,
Yeah.
you got to do it. So
Yeah.
it comes down to how much you can manage yourself to push yourself through the things that are difficult, and understand that everything is difficult. There's
Yes.
no easy button.
No,
And if
no,
you
no.
are constantly looking for the easy way, you're setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment, because it's just not easy. Nothing worthwhile is.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's why I try to figure out how to do, as we talked about, like if it's uncomfortable, I try to tell myself to do it. And it's funny because
Right.
it's something that Joe DeSena told me once when I was interviewing him, where he was in Ukraine delivering some supplies to troops, and he had already done a cold plunge earlier. And
Mhm.
one of the generals he was with was like, "Oh, you should jump in that river." And he was like, he's like, I already did it. I didn't want to do it. He's like, and because I didn't want to do it, I had to go do it. And I'm like, that's exactly it. And somebody said in here that I should not, weed is that might be contributing to mental health or sleep issues. And look, I'm not saying I'm perfect at all. I got to tell you that I don't. Just because I work here doesn't mean I do it all right. I don't. I got
Right.
issues just like other people. There's vices and things that I'm trying to overcome, and I am sometimes in the same boat as some of the folks that ask stuff here, and I learn stuff from you guys. So don't think that I sit on some pedestal like I have all the answers. I don't at all. I don't ever think that. And the thing is with Get Massive, I do have a cold plunge. I got to move it inside now though, because if I keep it outside in the winter, it's going to freeze and break. And I got to get a new one. So, and then John's telling me how he has one inside, and then it causes all this moisture everywhere, which is what I definitely can't afford.
I fixed it. I fixed it. Yeah, for $70, I found like a liner that it's kind of like a plastic. I don't know what you can explain. It's a big rectangular piece of plastic with like 4-inch walls on it. So it's like a liner, right? If you ever seen an HVAC unit, they're sitting in a tin liner in case the condensation spills out. It's the exact same thing I found, and it's exactly the right size. It's perfect, and it was $74, and it's made out of plastic. I drained the tub, cleaned it out, moved it over. There was shit growing on the floor, like I don't know what it was, some kind of crystal thing coming out of the cement. So I scrubbed all that shit off and dried it out really good. Put the liner down, put the tub back in the liner, and filled it back up. It's been perfect ever since. And if any condensation or water gets in there, there's a little drain. It drains right out. So it's a perfect solution. So move your cold plunges inside. You got to get a liner.
Okay, then I will, because I definitely have to. I want to use it more this winter because I'm not going to be able to get the mile swim done for my death race challenge. So I'm going to need to spend more time in the cold water. And I'm also going to have to get I'm going to have to start to actually swim at like a Y or something. I've never had to do that. So I got to start to swim at least a mile a few times a week.
Do you know what a flume? Do you know what a flume is?
No, I do not.
It's like a treadmill for swimming. So it's a pool about as big as your desk. It's about 6 feet, 7 feet long, and there's a tether on it that you put around your waist, like on a belt, and it locks you in one place. And what happens is the tub creates a current. So you're facing a current. So you just swim in place. And you're basically swimming against the current. You don't move. You stay tethered to the rope in the middle of the tub, and you can swim for miles. And it just you don't go anywhere. You're
all right, I should have done that. I should do that, and then I should just had like an Apple Watch because it's like gotta be open water, and I'm not gonna make it. I also don't have at this point. I don't have any gear to swim, dude. Like you're not allowed to use any fins, and that's fine, but I'm not going to be able to go, like, say I go to upstate New York or find even some place here in Jersey and go swim. I probably need something at this point to keep me. It's going to be cold, like not just cold, but I'm not going to make it. I don't even swim. I could make it a mile for me it'd take a long time right now because it's just something I don't do. Just like I don't run distance,
Yeah, so you got to have a real affinity for water to be a good swimmer. You got to be really comfortable in water. Like when I was in the Navy in boot camp, they tied our hands behind our back, threw us in the pool, 12-foot deep pool. And you had to sink to the bottom, push yourself up, grab a breath, sink back down to the bottom, push yourself up, grab a breath, sink back down. You got to just do this for like 20 minutes. There were guys freaking out, having to get drunk because your hands are tied behind your back.
Yeah,
guys were freaking out. They were like getting yanked. Divers were in the water. Just in case they were getting dragged out of the water, hyperventilating, throwing up, and I'm like, I was so comfortable doing. I could have done it all day. There was just absolutely nothing wrong with it for me. So. I'm just very comfortable in water. I'm a really good swimmer. I've been, I'm a diver. I've done all of that shit. I have no problem with the water.
And a climber, and yeah.
Well, I'm old, dude. So a lot of years to fill up a lot of shit. But yeah, man, that's like if you're not comfortable in water, you're gonna have problems. I mean, you really you really are if you have to deal with water on any kind of basis like that. So swimming a mile, I mean, you ask some people swimming a mile, that's nothing. Other people,
I know. I get
like
it.
A mountain you got to climb.
I know. Listen, I get that, and but to me, here's why it's cool, because it's something I don't do that I'm going to now begin to do. Like, it's something that I have to seek out and try, and it's even if it's in a pool for now, that's fine. Like, as I said, the why, because I really do want to hook up my cold plunge inside and start to do that more.
Mhm.
Just I really want to do my best this winter, or as we head into winter here, to st- to try to stave off some of the things like the seasonal depression, stuff like that I have dealt with in the past. I'm trying new things. Whether they work or not, I don't know. I don't really know. But yeah, and get massive. Look, I definitely don't. It seems to me like you probably go and, like, I don't know, the Arctic, but I do my best. I do the best I can do. I could work up to it. I could probably go a little colder and suffer a little more. And that's why I look forward to these events, and I'm gonna look for some winter events to do. It's I just want to try some new things and see what I can do. And yeah, I do like to feel that way of, like John said, where you put yourself in these spots where maybe victory isn't a definite outcome, but that's
Mhm.
okay. You just got to
Yeah.
keep going and keep doing it. And that's why, look, I wrote something about, that's why, check it out. It's online. I wrote about the death race this year. I wrote about all 4 times I failed and what I learned. And even though I failed the actual event, I feel as though I learned
You
valuable things about myself.
Dude, there is no failure in subjecting yourself to that even for 10 minutes. And you lasted what, 30 something hours? I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably more than I would last. But the thing with these challenges is that, people have a tendency to put themselves in situations that are inherently perilous. And I guess that adds to the excitement about it, or the feeling you get when you're done. But some things that these people do just don't compute to me. For example, I actually will wake up in the middle of the night with a panic attack if I dream about this dude that went caving. Okay, and you ever see these guys cave and they got to crawl through these little
Yeah.
narrow, tiny
Yeah.
passages?
It's like a hole this big.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they decide to go. They don't know what's on the other side. Does it get smaller? Does it get bigger? You can't. So here's
I've
this
seen those.
dude who gets into this situation and he somehow gets himself trapped with his arm like this under himself and he can't move. He's
God.
stuck in a cave, like
Oh
with
boy.
he's totally stuck. The guy who he's with can't get him out.
Oh,
The
jeez.
guy's done. He's there. It took 17 hours for him to die, and then another
Oh.
7 hours after he's dead to wrench his body out of
Oh
there.
my
To
God.
and I think about that. Can you imagine? Try to put yourself in this. Don't You might not want to do it because you'll wake up with panic attacks like I do. But your arm is like this, is pinned under you. It's got to be killing you, and shit, and you can't
Yeah.
move. You're
Hmm.
stuck. You can't move. Every tenth of a millimeter that you try to move gets you more stuck. So you are fucked. And then you actually have to die. There's no recourse. There's that and death. And you are going to die. It took 17 hours for this guy in agony to die. And another
Oh.
seven, like I said, 7 hours to pull his body out. Why would you put yourself in that position? What possible good outcome can you get from that? The
Oh.
feeling of saying, hey, I made it through this little tiny tunnel and I'm out the other side. You don't even know what was on the other side. So, when you do stuff like that, I think about that. I think about that dude and what he went through, how he died, and what that must have felt like. And I actually get anxiety over it. And it wakes me up and I have to like walk around the house for, 15 minutes so I can, calm down and go back to sleep.
No.
That's, how powerful
Oh my
that
God.
image was to me. And look, that's like you hear about the guys freezing to death on Mount Everest. You hear about, the cavers that do it actually underwater, that drowned, these, it's just nutty that some of the stuff people do that is so inherently dangerous and suffering that I don't know why they do it, when there's plenty of other shit to do.
Oh, so wait, is this true? Like, first one shots, they couldn't even pull his body out. They had to, and he basically was stuck in there, and they closed the cave. Oh my God!
Yep.
What?
Yep.
But okay. why not like a massive flamethrower or something and just get, I'm not trying to be whatever, but if it were me, I wouldn't want to be stuck in there. Also, I'd be like, listen, can somebody go get a machine gun or a bomb or a grenade and just end it, please?
End it
Like,
for me. Shoot
yeah,
me.
like,
Something,
oh my
something
God.
to me. But
Oh
good
my
Lord,
God.
17 hours to die, in that
Oh.
environment. God almighty, what that guy must have gone through. I just can't even imagine it.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Okay, the thoughts too about like probably everything, that you've either done or did wrong in your life. And I would start with the fact that I went into that cave. I'd be like, what was I doing? Why would I do this?
Right.
Oh,
Now
oh,
it's like when I was rock climbing, I'd look up a cliff and say, it's going to be challenging, but I had safety equipment, I had ropes, I had chocks, clip, I had all the equipment that you could use for
yeah.
safety. And, you take a reasonable approach. You try it a couple of times. You don't mind taking a fall if you got good equipment. So, but to put yourself in a situation like that with no rope, like Alex Honnold does, climbs El Capitan with no rope in 4 hours. That was a 4-day climb back in the day. We had a bivouac on the freaking cliff face in a porta ledge. And this guy flies up in 4 hours with no rope. Could he have died? Absolutely. But, he didn't. And, he's alive to talk about it. But that's such a minority. That is at least doable. Crawling through a hole in the ground that's smaller than your body is not doable, but they do it anyway.
Whew, boy, that's I don't know, man. Yeah, that's rough. No, I'm definitely going to be thinking about that. So
When I think
thank
about
you.
that, I almost feel like rejoining that testosterone replacement group.
Exactly. Anything to take your mind off of that, to be trapped and have your, oh my God. Oh, yeah.
God, that was the worst story I ever heard.
Yeah. When was that? When did that happen?
I don't know. It was fair. I think it was fairly recent, but
Oh,
yeah, if you go on YouTube, you can actually find it. They did a thing on it. That's where I think that's where I watched it from. But my God, what a horrendous end to your life.
oh, I believe you. I believe that it's I'm not going to watch that. I'm not watching it.
Yeah, there was another one. This dude, famous for it. He was bouldering in a cave, and the rock shifted and pinned his arm in the crack, and his hand, and he couldn't get his hand out. His hand was jammed, and he couldn't move. He was by himself. He tried rigging up a rope thing to try to pull it, and tried to figure out how to get. He couldn't do it. What he ended up doing, he had 2 liters of urine that he drank to keep from dehydrating and dying of dehydration. And he was like 5 miles off the road. And he was in the
Oh,
middle of fucking nowhere in a cave where you shouldn't be by yourself anyway, stuck. Do you know what he did? With a Swiss Army knife, he cut his hand off.
oh, that's the 20. Is it the 27 hours guy? Like, or that,
I
remember
think it
that
was.
one?
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
27 hours. And then after he chopped his hand off with a pocket knife, he had to walk 5 miles
Oh.
to the road. You know,
I
it's
I wonder if the urine, like after a while, tastes like starts to be like, nah, it's not that bad, Like, I mean,
depends on
like,
how
at
many times
first I'd be
you
like,
ran it
oh, it's
through.
gross, and then after like your fucking 20th swig, it's like, yeah,
Not so
it's not
bad.
that
Not
bad.
so
Uh,
dead, or what
yeah,
are you
there's a question for you, John. Is it true that when climbers get to the top of a mountain, they have the urge to leap off? I heard it's common.
I never heard of that. I never
No
heard of
way.
that.
Me neither. I mean,
I got to the
usually,
top. The first place I wanted to go was a restaurant.
yeah. Man. All right, let's do that. Yeah, they left him there. That's right, Loho. All right. Listen,
No, I
that's a
think they
perfect.
got him out.
Oh, they did. Oh,
Yeah,
that one guy said that they left him there. But you know
there,
what?
this is not a one. This is oddly. This is not a singular incident. This has happened
Jeez.
numerous times.
I don't mean to laugh. I'm laughing because I'm so uncomfortable thinking about that. It's just awful. But listen, that's a good spot to wrap her up. Listen,
All right.
we'll cut it off. We'll be back on Thursday. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all the comments. And see, this is what we like, man. We like when we can talk about all this stuff. We talked about a million things. I know I'm going to go check out that video of the dude screaming, "Get massive." I promise I will. And I'll look up some stuff about the more about this Mike Jeff situation.
Does he mean the leg curl guy who was screaming doing leg curls? Is that who he's talking about?
Yeah.
Oh my! Did you see that video?
No. He was the one telling me to go watch it. I totally
If there's
forgot. Now,
if there was ever a piece of media that would promote, that would entice you to never go to the gym again, that's it.
All right, I'm going to look it up. I promise. I'm going to watch it now, and then next time he asks, I'm going to be like, I did watch that.
Absolute lunatic.
I'm going to check it out. But all right, everybody, we'll catch you.